This free agent class is one of the craziest I've ever seen. We've got a receiver who signed a $120 million contract and didn't play a single snap. We've got a Super Bowl MVP. We've got a 7th round pick who matched the Jerry Rice stat line. And we've got a guy who got cut after being the fastest player in football for the last decade. I'm ranking my top 10 free agents for fantasy football, and some of these landing spots are going to completely reshape your draft board, so let's get into it. The 10th spot goes to J.K. Dobbins, and the conversation is always the same with this man. Can he stay healthy? And the answer was once again no this year. He put up 772 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns in just 10 games before a Liz Frank injury ended his season. He averaged 5 yards per carry, had an 80.8 PFF rushing grade, and 448 consecutive carries without a fumble. When he's on the field, he's one of the best runners in football, and it's not even a debate, but the injury resume is genuinely insane at this point. He had an ACL tear in 2020, knee surgery in 2022, a torn Achilles in 2023, and this year the Liz Frank injury. He has never played more than 15 games in a single NFL season, not once, and he's going to sign another 1-year prove-it deal. If you draft him, just make sure you draft his handcuff. The RB1 upside is true. It's really there, but the availability risk is through the roof. There's no doubt that J.K. Dobbins will likely be a boomer bust pick this year, but getting into number 9, who was Jauan Jennings, he was a 7th round pick. I wish I could say he was the best 7th round pick for the Niners, but they have Brock Purdy as well. And this year he put up 55 catches, 643 yards, and 9 touchdowns while playing through broken ribs, a high ankle sprain, a low ankle sprain, and a shoulder injury. He was really banged up this year, but he led the 49ers in receiving TDs and was top 4 in the entire NFL in contested catches. He turned down a multi-year extension before the season because he bet on himself, and it really worked. Now he's going to get a massive payday, and the Raiders, the Panthers, and several other teams are going to be calling his name on free agency. If he lands somewhere where he can be a true number 1, I think he will have a higher ceiling in fantasy than a lot of people think. The 8th spot is a polarizing one. Tyreek Hill is one of the most fascinating free agent situations I can remember. He's an 8-time Pro Bowler, 5-time All-Pro, Super Bowl champion, and the only player in NFL history to have back-to-back 1,700 yards receiving seasons, and he just got released by Miami. This is the first time he's been a free agent in his 10-year career, and the problem is pretty obvious. He dislocated his knee and tore his ACL in week 4 against the Jets, and his entire game is built on being fast. He ran a 4.29 at his pro day. That's the speed that makes Tyreek Hill, and at 31 years old, coming off a devastating knee injury, there's a real chance he never gets that back. He was already trending down before that injury, though. He had 959 yards in 2024, which was his lowest in a full season since 2019, and the off-the-field stuff hasn't helped, but let's not forget that in 2023, this man led the NFL in yards with 1,813 touchdowns, and that was just 2 years ago. The landing spots everyone's watching are obviously the Chiefs for the massive reunion with Mahomes, the Chargers where Mike McDaniel is now the offensive coordinator, and the Bills have always needed a wide receiver 1 desperately. If he comes back at even 85% of what he was, someone is getting a real steal, but if the injury really took his speed, he could be a locker room issue that a lot of teams just don't want to take on. The 7th spot is one I'm really excited about. This was one of the wildest stories in all of free agency. Brandon Aiyuk signed a 4-year, $120 million extension with the 49ers, and he played just 7 games on that contract before tearing his ACL, MCL, and meniscus. Then in 2025, he doesn't play a single snap. He was on the PUP list all year rehabbing, and at some point just stopped showing up. The 49ers voided $27 million in guaranteed money after he missed obligated rehab sessions, and Aiyuk didn't even fight it. They placed him on the reserve left squad list in December, which is essentially a suspension, and GM John Lynch told reporters it's safe to say he's played his last snap as a 49er. So now he's going to be released, probably with a post-June 1st designation for cap reasons, and he'll hit free agency. The talent is undeniable. He's an elite route runner, and he's only 27, but he hasn't played meaningful football since October of 2024, and the knee injury was not just a normal ACL, it was a full tri-ligament tear. Washington is the top rumored landing spot because Jane Daniels was his college teammate at Arizona State. The Patriots, Steelers, and Ravens have all been connected too, but for fantasy, this is the ultimate boomer bust pick depending on draft capital. If the knee is right and he gets into a good situation, you're looking at a top 15 wide receiver. If not, you just wasted a pick on a guy who might not even make it through training camp. 6 might surprise some people. Wandale Robinson just had his first 1,000-yard season, and the way he got it tells you everything you need to know about this dude. He fractured his ribs in week 17 against the Raiders and kept playing because he needed 1,000 yards, got it, and then went 3 straight games with 100 yards to close the season. Dude is an absolute dog. The final line was 92 catches, a little over 1,000 yards, and 4 touchdowns on 140 targets, and he did a majority of that without Malik Neighbors, who tore his ACL in week 4, but he was basically the entire Giants passing game from that point forward and still has now put up back-to-back 90-plus catch seasons. Here's what excites me though. His yards per reception jumped from 7.5 in 2024 to 11 in 2025. That's a massive efficiency leap. In 2024, he was basically a running back playing receiver, all short targets, all the underneath stuff. This year, they moved him to the outside a little more, and he proved that he can actually win downfield a little bit. At 5'8", 185 pounds, he's small, but that clearly doesn't matter. Now what you guys really came for, the top half of the list, starting with number 5, Travis Etienne. Etienne had a career year, over 1,000 rushing yards, 13 total touchdowns, 7 on the ground, 6 through the air, and helped lead Jacksonville Jacksonville to a 13-4 record, which was the top of the AFC South. This was a massive bounce back as everyone thought he was cooked in 2024 after rushing for just 558 yards, but the receiving ability is absolutely there, which separates him from a lot of the backs in this class. He had over 30 catches, almost 300 receiving yards, and 6 touchdowns through the air this year. He was really good for Jacksonville this year. Through the first 5 weeks, he led the NFL with 6.1 yards per carry and had multiple breakaway runs that led to massive fantasy weeks. The concern is one that you might have heard though. The second half was rough. He had just 59 rushing yards on 3.6 yards per carry over the Jags' final 10 games, and the Jags offense stopped needing him because Trevor Lawrence was playing the best football of his entire life. He's 27 with over 1,000 career touches, and Jacksonville is over the cap with Breece Hall on a cheap rookie deal. He's almost certainly hitting the open market, and if he lands somewhere that actually wants to commit to the run, I don't think he's a fluke. He's a good player. Arizona, Houston, and Denver all make sense for him. Mike Evans only played 8 games this year, but he had some brutal injuries. He had a hamstring, a concussion, and then a broken collarbone. The stat line looks ugly, 30 catches for only 368 yards and 3 touchdowns, but I need you to understand something about Mike Evans that those numbers don't show. This man had 11 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons to start his career. That's tied with Jerry Rice for the longest streak ever, and that was the longest streak ever to start a career in NFL history. The only reason it ended in 2025 was because of the broken collarbone and all the injuries I mentioned earlier, not because he declined. In 2024 at age 31, he put up over 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, and a career best 90.4 PFF grade. And in the first game back from the broken collarbone this year, he went for 6 catches and 132 yards. At 32 years old, after all those injuries, he cooked Kobe Bryant. Shout out to KU. He's got 108 career receiving touchdowns. That's 10th in NFL history, and he needs just 4 more to pass Antonio Gaines for 9th all time. And he's confirmed he's playing in 2026 and will explore free agency for the first time ever after 12 seasons in Tampa. For fantasy, Evans is going to be a discount because of his age, and he almost always has because of how old he is. But after an injury-wrecked season, if he signs with a contender like the Bills, Broncos, or 49ers, who he's all rumored to go to, he's a wide receiver 2 with weekly wide receiver 1 upside purely based on his red zone presence. Now getting into the 3 most important guys on this list, Breece Hall is just 24 years old and he became the first Jets running back to rush for 1,000 yards since 2015. That is a full decade without an 1,000-yard rusher, and Breece just did it on one of the worst offenses in the NFL with multiple quarterbacks and defenses stacking the box every single play. He had over 1,000 rushing yards, 350 receiving yards, and over 1,400 yards from scrimmage. PFF graded him as the 7th best back overall at his position, top 11 rushing, top 8 receiving. He's elite on both sides. He can run it and catch it through the air, and he's the youngest premium back in this entire free agent class. The one knock on him is the touchdowns. He only had 18 rushing scores in 4 NFL seasons, but that's a Jets problem, not a Breece Hall problem. Put him on a competent offense and those numbers might explode. He's been connected to the Chiefs. He could be franchise tagged by the Jets, or he could hit the open market, and he'll probably command up north of $10 million a year. Either way, Breece is going to be a top 36 fantasy pick in 2026. The talent is undeniable. The age profile is incredible, and whoever signs him is getting a true 3-down back who's entering his prime. Let me know who you guys want in the comments, Breece or this guy who just won Super Bowl MVP. Kenneth Walker absolutely balled out this year. He's the first running back to win the award in 28 years, and the last one was Terrell Davis in 1998. That's the kind of company he's in right now. He put together a masterclass in the Super Bowl, 27 carries for over 100 rushing yards. He even had multiple catches and was breaking away 30-yard runs like it was nothing, and by halftime, he had 94 yards on 14 carries, which is the 2nd highest rushing total of all time in the first half in Super Bowl history. After Zach Charbonnet tore his ACL in the divisional round, Walker became the undisputed workhorse and went crazy. He had 313 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, and 104 receiving yards across 3 playoff games, leading all players in postseason rushing. In the regular season, he put up over 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns, and played all 17 games for the first time in his career, and he was PFF's highest graded running back in the NFL at 90.7. He's only 25 with 821 career carries, which is incredibly fresh legs for a back of this production. And the winner should be pretty obvious. This guy is going to reshape the entire wide receiver market this offseason. It's George Pickens. Pickens balled out this year. He had 93 catches for over 1,400 yards and 9 touchdowns. He had career highs across the board. It was his first Pro Bowl, if anyone cares. He was a 2nd-team All-Pro, and he went from being the guy that everyone gave up on in Pittsburgh to being the best wide receiver on the Cowboys. He just needed a good quarterback, and he finally got it. He's only 24 years old. He's 6'3" with elite contested catching ability, and he only had one 1,000-yard season in Pittsburgh due to bad quarterback play, but now he's got Dak Prescott, and he has the most predictable situation of any free agent going forward. Dallas is expected to franchise tag him around $27 to $28 million, and Jerry Jones has publicly said that he wants to keep Pickens long term, which doesn't surprise me because they just lost Micah Parsons. If they tag him, he's locked in as a top 10 wide receiver with Dak throwing him the ball in that offense, and if he somehow hits the open market, the bidding war is going to be absolutely insane. We're talking $30+ million a year, with Jamar Chase's $40 million a year being the ceiling. For fantasy, Pickens is the #1 free agent because he's the most predictable. He's young, elite, and he's almost certainly going to stay in a situation where he put up 1,400 yards last year. The free agency negotiating window opens March 9th. The new league year starts March 11th. I'm going to be covering every major signing and what it means for your fantasy draft, so subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.